And welcome back to Zanpakuto video, everyone. The Zanpakuto Creation Series. Today's Zanpakuto comes to us from Hoiziv. I'm probably butchering the name. We'll ask the question, what is the Zanpakuto of Light Yagami from Death Note? A series I watched a little bit and read a little bit of. I mean, I know how it ended. I know how Light's journey ended. Not so favorably, spoilers, for those of us who have not read or watched a some-odd-year-old anime slash manga. But yeah, Light's a very interesting character who who gets all the Death Note and, then becomes God. But it's clear that that God complex was already there. He just needed the avenue um, in which to enact it. So obviously I wanted a Zanpakuto that kind of fit that motif. So first and foremost, Light's Zanpakuto is certainly a Keto type. He's highly intelligent and has this innate compass about him, moral compass about him. So Keto just made 100% sense there. It'd be a standard katana. Its release would be Justice. The name of this Zanpakuto would be God Balancer for Shikai, or Kame no Barasanza. Kame no Barasanza. Its Bankai, though, would be known as God Balancer Devil's Favor, as this shows the more, not corrupt, that's not, I mean, he is kind of a corrupt god in some ways, but this shows off more of the, what's the best way to put it, the evil, honestly, the evil side of Light, to be honest. Shows off the cruel, angry side of him, because let's be honest, he's not a good person. Light is not a good person. He believes he needs to do this for justice and that he is God, but when you break it down, he's still doing terrible things. And he ultimately just thought he was a god. So yeah, that makes the most sense for me. The spirit of the Zanpakuto actually would be a twofold thing. The spirit for the Shikai would look something akin to what Light looks like, albeit more angel, kind of how he sees himself. However, the flip side of that would be that the spirit in Bankai form, because we do know that spirits will usually can change form once they hit Bankai. We have Zangetsu with, weirdly enough, Nozarashi for that, as an example. So I think when it turns into a Bankai, it turns into something that looks a lot more like Ryuk. Not exactly like Ryuk, but something that's a lot more akin, something devilish and evil looking. But the question then becomes, what is the actual form and what is the ability of the Zanpakuto? Well, the Shikai, I thought for a little bit on there, and I decided to go with the concept of a Kusagari, which is basically a chain sickle. And really what it does is a balancing Zanpakuto. Light wanted to tip the balance of the world, to get rid of all evil and all that. But really what a Shikai only does is balance out things that it strikes, or that's within its vicinity. It also, weirdly enough, has perfect balance. He could literally balance it on his finger and be fine. But it's a Zanpakuto that is able to balance the effects and nature of things. So when it is, say a Sero is coming at him, he can hit it and balance out the effects to be proportionate to the amount of Ryatsu he's throwing in there, which, weirdly enough, even as a Shinigami, if he had a lot of Ryatsu, he'd want to keep his Ryatsu at a minimum. Or if, say, Yamamoto is coming at him with his Ryatsu, this is a Zanpakuto that, in theory, as long as it didn't get incinerated by his Bankai, could balance out Yamamoto's Ryatsu to some degree. Although Yamamoto's Bankai is even if he could get close enough to him to balance out, it'd already be incinerated. But you get my point, is that this is what the Zanpakuto ultimately is doing. And I chose the Kusagari because it is both a defensive and offensive weapon. The chain and the weight on the end there can be offensive, but acts more like a defensive tool, whereas the sickle part of it is very much the offense. So, balanced weapon right there. But what about the Bankai itself? The Bankai itself would actually take the form, I think, of a large pair of scales. And we'll move Light out of the way here. Basically a large scale that just stands behind him, that he is standing on when he activates the Bankai. And And basically what it is that because it also amplifies the spiritual pressure, any Bankai does. What it ultimately does is it weighs, if your spiritual pressure cannot match him, no matter what is going on, the scale tips. And in theory, it's similar like how Rose is like, okay, the dance of death, now you're going to die. In theory, it will, the misfortune and the pain and everything will be thrown directly onto you. And in theory, it should just straight out kill you. It's not a Bankai that's very advantageous in combat. It's one of those things that you activate it, and when you activate it, when your opponent or opponents, however many can fit on there, are immediately put on the scale. So as soon as Light is standing on that scale, and whoever's on the scale along with him, the effect happens. Now, if you want to get someone like, again, Yamamoto, Kenpachi, Aizen, someone whose spiritual pressure is so off the charts high that it would not be beneficial to be using this Bankai, well, then this Zanpakuto is useless. In fact, actually, it's kind of similar to Sakanade in that the Shikai is ultimately has a lot more practical uses than the Bankai, because let's use those 3 examples I had right there. Aizen, Kenpachi, and the Yamamoto. In theory, because Light would not be a character with spiritual pressure directly comparable to any of those, probably. In fact, if they're like all 3 of those guys are like a 10, he probably comes in probably more like at the 6. But if he can, in combat, get near them and get within their vicinity, hit them, whatnot, he can balance out their Ryatsu to match his at least. Doesn't mean he'd beat them overall in a fight, but it means he could at least put them more on an even playing field. And there lies a lot of the weaknesses of the Zanpakuto, is that just because he can balance out an effect or someone's power to match his does not mean that he could beat them because of whatever their ability is or their skill level. The Bankai, like I said, is kind of like Sakanade. It's very situational, and it's very not practical in multiple battles, at least against like an army. It's really only good one-on-one, and only if he can, only within a certain, basically only one-time use kind of thing. Because once if they get off the scale too, if they're able to get off before the actual weight of the scale is used, then there you go. Although I imagine the scale would have an ability that kind of at least keeps the opponent that they have on the other side scale, on the other weight, there until the actual judging is done. So that, I think, is Light Yagame's Zanpakuto. I like this concept. It could be tweaked a little bit, certainly. Maybe change the form of the Shikai, but I do like the whole idea of balance being what his Zanpakuto's ability is. So ultimately, that is the Bankai, in my opinion, of Light Yagami. What do you think his Bankai would be his Zanpakuto? Sorry. What do you think his Zanpakuto would be if you don't agree with this? Let me know in the comments below. But thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, subscribe. As always, if you want us to review something, put in the comments below. Let us know. We'll do a review of it at some point. Hit that bell if you want to be notified. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you later.